The NHL is screwing the New York Rangers. After more questionable calls go against the Rangers, Matt Rempe and coach Peter Laviolette have spoken out against the NHL with some shocking comments. We're going to break that down, as well as some clarity from the league on why this is happening to the Rangers. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, we do have a special announcement to make, as it is that time of year. We're kicking off a March Madness bracket for the channel. We've partnered with the Hot Takes app and other Digest channels for this event. It's completely free to sign up. Just download the Hot Takes app, click the March Madness banner at the top, and under groups, select the Digest Media pool. This is really exciting, as there's over $25,000 in prizes to be won, and since there's a much smaller pool of people participating, there's a real chance to win big. So check out the link below in the pinned comment or the description, or scan the QR code on your screen to download the app, and make sure to use promo code DIGEST. It is cap sensitive, so DIGEST in all caps to get some exclusive perks when signing up. The main event round starts on March 16th, and if you have any trouble signing in, there is an email in the description that you can email for help, and we'll get you some help to log in. Thank you again to Hot Takes for partnering with us on this incredible opportunity, and we look forward to seeing you all in the Digest Media pool for your March Madness bracket. Thank you once again to Hot Takes for sponsoring us for this incredible event, and we look forward to seeing everybody out there with their March Madness brackets in the Digest Media pool. But when it comes to Matt Rempe, you know, his treatment so far in the NHL, are the calls against him warranted? I would say with a player like Matt Rempe and everything he's done so far in the league, it's honestly 50-50. I think he's really put his game together the last little while, but some of the calls that are going against him, especially recently, are pretty absurd. We're going to break it down. This one last night against the Minnesota Wild was one of the most egregious interference penalties I've ever seen in my entire time watching this sport. And from Johnny Lazarus, the most ridiculous penalty I've ever seen. Matt Rempe gets called for being on the ice, and Devon Shore skates into Matt Rempe, and Rempe gets called for interference. Now, we're going to get into it. I'm going to show a clip. This is one of the most shocking penalties I've ever seen. I mean, there's no world where this is actually interference. They don't even know where one another is. I mean, they just bump into each other. Matt Rempe essentially gets 2 minutes here for being 2 feet taller than the other guy. I mean, he just simply bumped into the other player. There's no interference here. He wasn't trying to impede the other player's progress, which is literally what interference is. He just bumped into the player. So one of the more egregious penalties I've ever seen. And to make it worse, Matt Rempe was interviewed today by Molly Walker, and there's a ton of other quotes we're going to get to as well. And he said that the ref came over to him in the third period and apologized for the penalty because it was bogus. It was bogus, he said. They scored on that power play. Minnesota almost won that game because of this play. Directly, pretty much directly because of it. The ref told him it looked bad from his angle. How? Yes, I say how. We know how, because Matt Rempe is big and he has this kind of, you know, we know the narrative with him at this point. Yes, he's made mistakes in the past, but I think he's really starting to put his game together. And I know non-Rangers fans who are watching this video are going to be like, well, what is this guy talking about? But it's true. The fourth line with him on it has been one of the most effective lines for this team in the last month. It really has. So it's absolutely ridiculous, I think, that was even a call, and it's because of the narrative around Matt Rempe. He's certainly cleaned up his game as of late, and I thought this was very interesting from head coach Peter Laviolette as well. He insinuated that the New York Rangers have addressed the officiating bias against Matt Rempe with the league. There's always conversations that go on. Game happens fast out there, but with regard to Matt, we're just trying to get him the benefit of the doubt once in a while, and I think that, you know, when you look at his track record, maybe that isn't warranted. Maybe that's why refs are doing this. I can understand that. But Matt Rempe didn't do anything wrong on that play. And if you gave him a penalty just because he's Matt Rempe, we're not doing our job here as officials. So didn't like that penalty whatsoever. I think Rangers fans have all the reason to be upset about that one. The fact that they almost lost the game because of that was so ridiculous. And I guess Peter Laviolette saying that they pretty much addressed it with the league, and I guess they had that conversation like, hey, you know, what are we doing here with this player? I mean, it's brutal. And Matt Rempe also mentioned that he wanted to, you know, kind of mold his game and start to mold his game like Tom Wilson, like Marcus Foligno. And the thing with him is if he starts to play like them, he's got to be careful because he's going to get penalties, right? And we've seen in the past, he needs to learn how to use his body at the NHL level. And I think in the last month, like I said, he's absolutely doing that. He's doing a much better job of doing that. And he's been really effective because of that. He's learning how, you know, when to ease up, when he should, because he's not a 5'8" forward out there. He can't bulldoze his way through everyone because there will be consequences at his size. So he went on to say that the Capitals forward said some nice things to him on the ice, although they were beaking back and forth with each other a couple weeks ago. We saw that in the game, and he said there's a lot of respect there. And here's another quote from Matt Rempe as well. In terms of what's going on the ice and the officiate and everything he's dealt with, he said it's frustrating for sure. I don't agree with the calls on that one last night. The guy just ran into me. I know I'm a big guy who plays a physical game and stuff. It's unfortunate. I'm just trying to play my game. I think I'm playing really well. I'm not going to let it deter me. And I think that's a good mindset to have because he has turned it around, I should say, as of late. Yes, he got, that suspension, the 8-game suspension against the Dallas Stars earlier this year that everyone was, talking about when it did end up happening. And for good reason. It was a bad hit. But since that moment, even earlier in that game, if you can remember back to that game, he was probably their best forward in that game, and then that happens. But since that moment, since that suspension, he's really put his game together. He's playing effective minutes. He's playing more, and the fourth line has actually been really effective for the New York Rangers and actually scoring goals. It's not just, giving them good minutes. They're actually putting points up on the board, again, last night, tying the game. So pretty good, or taking the lead, I should say, 2-1. So really good work there from Matt Rempe as of late, and I like these quotes from him that he's trying to model his game after more power forwards, but at the same time, ease things back a little bit. He's learning how to use his body at the NHL level. I'm glad that's happening because this could have went off the rails very quickly with this player, and more from the New York Rangers in terms of Matt Rempe on navigating officiating. He said, I'm not changing my game, but I feel like I'm going to be fast, be physical, go make plays. My game has led with speed and physicality. That we know for sure. If I start going around and trying to be cautious, that's not me. That's not my game. The farthest thing I want to be is a big teddy bear. That's the last thing I want to be. Now, we have to read between the lines here. He did say in the past he's going to start easing up, right? But he's not going to stop playing his game. He's not going to start, not finishing hits and stuff like that. He's still going to play his game in that regard. But what he means in the past as well, we covered it in another video after the suspension, he's not going to bulldoze his way at 100 miles an hour through people through the boards anymore. That's basically what he's trying to say. But he's not going to change the way that he plays in terms of the things that need to be done on the ice, finishing your checks, being physical, playing with speed. He's not going to change those things just because, of a call like the one that happens last night. So I think that's the right mindset to have. And if he continues to do that, we've seen that he can be a very useful piece for this New York Rangers team, and especially the fourth line. They've been playing very well. And this is from Larry Brooks too. This is a bit, maybe an overreaction, but he said that Shore should be suspended for embellishment. Listen, I don't think that there's no penalty on that play. There's two guys that bumped into each other, and one of them, unfortunately, was a lot smaller than the other one, so he went flying. That's what happened, right? No penalties on the play. That's what should have happened, but unfortunately, this has become a thing now. And because that penalty was called, you have to ask the question, is there a bias against Matt Rempe? And it seems like maybe there is to a degree, which is not ideal for the New York Rangers, but this is Matt Rempe on trying to keep things under wraps in the third period. And by the way, shout out to Molly Walker. Go follow her on Twitter. She does a fantastic job. All of her articles and everything she gets from game days and obviously practices and stuff like that. Great follow. And he went on to say, I think I've been more mindful of hits. I'm still getting lots of hits every game, but I'm making sure they aren't from behind and my elbow is tucked. Stuff like this that we just mentioned. He's being more mindful of the way he's playing, but he's not going to change the way that he plays. He doesn't want to get away from the things that make him effective and the way that you need to play the sport, honestly. Just because he's bigger, it doesn't mean he should shy away from it. So I'm making sure of that just because I know if I do that, that's going to get me in trouble. So obviously he's reeling things back a little bit. He's being more mindful of the way he's throwing hits and being physical, but he's going to continue to be physical, and I think that's a good thing for Matt Rempe and for the New York Rangers because honestly, he's been very effective as of late. So let me know in the comments what you think about the NHL clearly having a little bit of bias against Matt Rempe. Is it for good reason? Perhaps, right? But I think that, especially the last little while, I think that he's starting to earn a little bit more respect with the way he plays, and he's starting to be more mindful. And honestly, he's a young player in the league. He's a lot bigger. He needs to learn to do that, or, it was going to spell trouble. But it looks like he's doing that, and he's been an effective player on that fourth line for the Rangers. Him, Brodzinski, and Othman have been fantastic for this team. So let me know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.